Hello and welcome to the nighttime interior, exterior, everything walk around of the Cars and Bids auction of my 1997 factory triple locked Lexus LX450. The reason why I'm doing this nighttime video is because the interior dash lights and exterior lights actually really matter, I think, in the grand scheme of the vehicle. And I wanted to showcase them a little bit, as well as show some of the deficiencies as well. So, first deficiency, the drive light no longer lights up. So you can see that I'm in drive, and now I'm going to shift to neutral. Bam, it lights up. Second lights up, low lights up, but drive does not. And that's obviously, that makes the most sense. 185,000 miles worth of that drive bulb lighting up, and it no longer has any incandescence left. So, with that being said though, overdrive off still lights up, power still lights up, second start still lights up, signals still light up, for you guys that have watched my off-roading video and the daytime interior walk around, maybe you can see it a little bit easier, but we'll do the diff lock, the ABS lights, we'll do the hazards. Actually, we'll keep the diff locked real quick, and we'll do the flashing rear diff and the flashing front. And honestly, this video is more about the lights than anything, so instead of just letting them lock up, I'll just turn them off. And then what is really the most important about this video is the fact that some of the HVAC and radio lights no longer work. So when the radio is off, everything looks normal and you're like, oh, okay, great, it's off. But turn it on and you'll notice that 3 and 4 are not lit up. You also notice that mid, treble, balance, and fade aren't lit up either. Obviously, once you're in the vehicle and once you know the vehicle, it's not that big of a deal because you can just find those buttons in the dark and it's not a big deal. Plus, you're not adjusting the balance and the fade and the mid and the treble very often anyways. And 3 and 4 are super easy to find as well. But it's just one of those things that I wanted to point out so that everybody knows. When it comes to the HVAC system, you can see that the air coming out of the top and bottom backlights light up, and you can obviously select those, and all the selection lights work. But the backlight for the front defroster, for instance, the backlight for, I don't even know what that is, for the defroster plus the floor, the backlight for just the floor, those don't light up, as well as the auto, and barely the recirculate and fresh air don't light up. But honestly, I've kept the truck on auto pretty much throughout the entirety of my ownership and just adjusted the temperature, and the fan speed changes and the temperature changes appropriately, and it's been fantastic. So to a certain extent, as long as I know that this middle green light is lit up, and as long as the AC green light is lit up, I know that I'm going to be comfortable. So it's been excellent and quite comfortable. But along the top here, there's the center diff switch and the hazard switch, which both light up. But then there's also the rear defrost, which the backlight no longer works, but the activation light still works. And then you can't even see it, but the antenna up-down buttons are right here, and they don't backlight at all. Now, maybe they did back in the day, but they don't anymore. The rear heater, which all you can really see is the fan symbol, and I think that's honestly how it was supposed to look. But low is green, high is yellow. There's also the security light and little beeper alarm right next to that, but you can't see that. That may not have had a backlight ever anyways, to be honest. And I honestly don't know if those lights work anymore anyways. They are hooked up. I definitely made sure that they're hooked up when I installed the center differential switch, but I do not know if the lights in the security panel work. Light inside of the ashtray works, fantastic. Light inside of the glove box works. And then the dimmer dial actually does a very good job of dimming everything as it should. But none of the switches over here, aside from this freshly installed auxiliary fan, light up. Did the mirror switch ever have a backlight? I don't know. Did the center differential switch ever have a backlight? I don't know. But there's no lights over here. The auto for the front driver does light up, which is definitely nice, but you can always center yourself on that switch anyways because it feels different from the rest just in your fingertips. So luckily the gear shift selector and the power and the second do light up, and they're very bright, so you can always see them. The sunroof switches I don't think have any backlighting, but they're pretty easy to find as well. That's more of a muscle memory thing. The little map light up here does work, and as you can see, it's quite bright. So let's do a quick walk around of the exterior. And first thing that I'm going to show is that the second row light lights up when you open the door, as long as it's set to door. But the third row light does not light up until you open the second row. And of course, I've got to unlock the door. Ta-da! And obviously both of those can be turned off completely, or left in door mode, or left on. I love the fact that the doors have little marker lights in them, both the front and the rear on both the driver and passenger side, and obviously they work, which is fantastic. Unfortunately, no lights in the ashtrays. I remember my parents' 95 Lincoln Town Car had lights in the ashtrays in the rear seats, but apparently Lincoln was more luxurious than Lexus in the 90s. Obviously that's a joke. I think this truck is far more luxurious. Far more capable as well. The Lincoln was a fine car, but this Lexus is incredibly capable. I don't think my parents would have trusted the Lincoln to drive across country, but this Lexus has driven across the country twice. So, side marker light again. Side marker light again. They both light up. Even though this CD changer no longer works, the eject light still lights up, but that thing hasn't worked since I've owned it. The seats are actually quite lovely. I think they're very nice. There are daylight pictures associated with the listing, obviously, but even here in the nighttime, they look quite nice. Same with the third row. Now, as you can see, because I closed the second row, but kept the front driver door open, only the second row light is on. But as soon as I open the rear liftgate, the third row light comes on, which is fantastic. There is a switch inside of the liftgate. Definitely makes it easier to see into the back here. I upgraded the brake lights, reverse lights, and license plate lights with Philips Zevo LED bulbs, so they're never going to burn out, and they're ultra bright, and I think they look super fantastic. So you can see the tail lights right now. I will actuate the brake pedal in a second, as well as the reverse lights. Side marker bulbs were not upgraded, but they weren't burned out, so there was no reason to change them. Same thing with the fronts. They're just regular 168, 194 bulbs, but they weren't burned out, so no reason to change them. You can see the low beams. They're not quite the brightest ever, and that makes sense. They're not HIDs, they're not LEDs, they're 1990s headlights. But they, with, you know, turning on the high beams, going down the highway or going down a back road definitely works. Obviously, if you're gonna do any serious nighttime off-roading, get an LED bar, get LED lights that go in the bumper panels, all kinds of upgrades, enormous aftermarket. Let me flip on the high beams real quick. So the high beams definitely make a difference. Matter of fact, I'm probably blinding you viewers, but even with the high beams being on, I could still benefit from a lot more light. My daily commuter 2017 Honda CR-V has brighter low beams than the high beams on this vehicle, and that's just the way it is. You can probably see the little crack right here. I've sealed it over with windshield gasket sealant, but water did leak into there back when I first bought the vehicle, but that's why I replaced the driver's side high beam, and you can see that in the listing. So that bulb is brand new, and the inside of the bulb housing was cleaned up and everything. Like, I definitely didn't just pop a new bulb in. I actually cleaned it up a bit. Let me turn on the flashers real quick so that you can see what the front hazards look like. Lovely. Perfect. And then in the back, I did not change the turn signal bulbs. Those are still regular incandescent bulbs. They are not LED, but also they weren't out and they work perfectly and they're bright, so just stick with what we got. Now, let me put it into reverse. E-brake is on, so you'll be able to see the reverse lights and how bright white they are. I think they look fantastic, way better than that yellowy, orangey white light that probably used to come out of those lenses back with the old incandescent bulbs. And now for the coup de grace. So anybody that's familiar with 4Runners or other Toyota vehicles, such as the late 90s Tundra or the early 90s T100s, or just any of their SUVs and just their older trucks, knows that the rear third brake light was never really a consideration. It was always just a tiny little 6-inch bar, maybe 4-inch bar, honestly. And it wasn't even a bar, it was just a normal, it looked like a side marker lens, but just mounted up top. The thing that I always liked about the FZJ80 and the Lexus LX450 is that they were fancier, and as they should be. They are, you know, the flagship SUV of Toyota. So in the LX450 and the Land Cruiser, they made the third brake light, if I can get it to turn on. They made the third brake light a fantastic LED light bar. And keep in mind that this isn't it's not a 2000s vehicle. This is a late 90s vehicle. And they gave it this massive LED light bar. I haven't upgraded or changed that LED light bar. It has worked beautifully the whole entire time that I've owned this truck. None of the LEDs are failing. The whole thing is consistent all the way across. It's super bright and beautiful. It is inside of the liftgate behind the glass as well, whereas in the 4Runners, the tiny little 4-inch side marker light that doubled as a third brake light was actually mounted in the spoiler. So this is just a super cool and unique look, something that you don't get on a 4Runner or on a T100 or on a late 90s Tundra or anything like that. So basically the interior and exterior lights are fantastic, and the majority of them work except for the ones that I pointed out as not working. But all in all, one of the reasons why Toyotas are so reliable is because of their electrical, and this one is no different. It has fantastic longevity of its bulbs. Those brake light bulbs and reverse light bulbs that I replaced were probably originals that came with the vehicle, and now they're LED bulbs, so they'll probably never need changing again for the rest of the life of the truck for whoever buys this and owns it next. So just wanted to show a nighttime view of the truck with all of its lights, interior and exterior, and I wish the best of luck to the bidders on this vehicle. I love this truck and I will miss her dearly, but COVID dramatically affected my finances, so it's time to part with her. And the winner will certainly be pleased with her off-road capability, her on-road comfort, her reliability, and her presence. Like, such a beautiful body style and shape. So thank you so much. This is definitely the final video, but go to Cars and Bids and check out my factory triple locked 1997 white Lexus LX450 with a tan interior and about 185,000 miles on the clock. She will serve you well, just like she's served me well. And she will take you out super far into the wilderness and definitely get you back multiple times. So thank you again, and happy bidding.